Hello again. This week I wanted to talk about Infinity once more. I'm a dozen games back in to the system, so let's see how we're going. First off, hobby. So, as my standard thing is to pick a faction for the year, I've switched over to Imperial service this year. And hobby, I'm making some progress on painting the new models. At this point, we've only picked up the action pack and transforming cat robot. Everything else is just stuff I already owned. I find it quite interesting, the differences in the sculpts these days. Just on the nature of them, I found I really needed to update my color scheme. Obviously, we're leaning much more into the color than using it just to highlight patterns. As I said, the old cloaks I find had some really nice detail you could pick out, which so far I haven't really got around. We'll see if we can get it on these ones. But then again, I was just starting to work on some freehand, so we can always bring that over and see how that runs out. Overall though, I am a fan of the more modern designs, as I do wonder who Corvus Belli brought on that's obsessed with robot dinosaurs. I can't say they're wrong, but it does seem to be a random new theme. So, as I said, the main thing is sort of updating my approach in the colouring. Now, I never did finish too many of the Imperial service, mainly my agents. I really like the yellow with, it looks more blue here, but it is a turquoise on the robes. And how to translate that to the rest of the models. But I think, coming back to the game, the overall colours are more important than, say, where they are. So probably a lot of these heavy infantrymen, when I get to them, will have the teal just in lines or on certain plates to bring it into their theme and try and bring it all together. But I suppose we'll update that and see how we're going. So after a dozen games in, I've found my major problems with currently playing the game. Now, I've brought it up before, is identifying models. Now, I had my first games just in the last couple of weeks against both Torchlight and the new Next Wave. And they tell me the name of these models, they try and give me a rough rundown of what they do, but at the end of the day, I just don't recognize them, and it's like you're looking at the same guy multiple times being like, wait, what was that guy again? What did he do? Now, I don't know if this is unique to me. I'm sure it's not, or how widespread among the community it is. But I find that being one of the biggest challenges coming into the game. Such a large range of models is just not knowing what I'm looking at across the table. And I think it's one of those things, if you can learn to do it, if you play enough games against enough different factions and ranges, you'll learn what's what and what you're looking out for. But as I said, that's just the biggest problem I've had. That said, as well as a bit of changes in terms, obviously they de-nested rules ages ago, but I didn't play much after third. I've sort of missed the whole edition. So I have a lot of new rules popping up these days. And some old ones that are just more common. So decoy, for instance, I don't really remember happening outside of Ariadna, but now I see it all the time. I even have a few models myself with it. And that said, you begin to see, like, across the table, you see these camo markers, and you're like, well, it's decoys or mines, what you're likely to have in your faction. And you begin to sort of learn to recognize the new tricks. That said, dozen games, not that many. Only 5 of those are with the Imperial service, so there's still a lot of learning to be done. This is certainly a game with a high... I wouldn't say a high floor, it's not a very low floor, but a very high ceiling, and I can see there's still a lot of the way to go back up there. But yeah, that said, I'm really enjoying it. Really starting to get the knack of it. But I think now it's just buckling down and learning this faction. So, that said, quick comparison, jumping from still phalanx to imperial service. The biggest thing I found was what you're writing lists around. So for me, still phalanx, like I want to use Hector. So I do a list. You're looking at what links he can go in, the support models he needs, and then, I need a bit of more hitting power. We need some specialists. And I found it pretty easy to build a list that essentially was built for this one model, but functions even if he went down. Imperial Service, I found not quite the same. Now, I did see a thing that's like Imperial can do a lot of different things. You can have a heavy hacking game. You can have a lot of cheap models supporting some elite ones. You can have a lot of medium troops. So there's not in the sectorial, there's not a huge focus on a particular element to latch onto. You kind of have to decide what element you want to play and learn onto that. Which of course brings us to a final thing. So I've got a tournament coming up. It will be the first 2-day 5-round tournament I've ever played in, so that will be interesting at least. Now, I don't expect to run highly in this. That said, I'm still aiming to win as many games as I can, but at very least, I'm hoping just to have 5 enjoyable games. So, there's our goals. But the reason I bring this up is my list for these tournaments. Now, I won't show them right now, but I have my 2 lists that I've decided to lock in for a month or so to get some practice with them. And I know that they could be better optimized, but if you're constantly trying to tweak something and do that, I feel I have a better chance of winning games with a bad list I'm well practiced in than a good list that I only put together the night beforehand. Some people might be able to build a list and know how it's going to be played. I'm certainly not at that stage. I need to put models on the tables and test tactics and try them out so I know what I can reliably do and what I can't. That noted as well. So there's a couple models. So far, the aforementioned dinosaur, a great model, has not been performing too highly. But I certainly want to use him. I want to put him on the table. So he's in at least one of those lists. And then I won't go through all of them. There's a few models like that where I just want to get them on the table. I want to see them played. So this is my chance. So I think by the end of this, I'll have a few games on my belt. I've had a chance to really play the model, and if I can't find a way to make it work and I decide to let it sit and spend some time on the shelf while I try some other things out, well, at least then I know I gave it a fair go and I actually got some use out of the model rather than letting it gather dust from the moment it came out of the box. Because at the end of the day, one of the big decisions that brought me to Imperial Service is I just love some of the models. Particularly agents. How can you not love a transforming cat robot and robot dinosaurs? Although they haven't drawn me over to the next wave with that yet. The one thing I think about this is I wonder how many people in my local community I'll end up playing with this list, and they'll know about my secret deployment models, aerial drop, hidden deployment, what's going to be under my camo markers, and how that will affect the games in the tournament. And can I even play some games with, yeah, you know what the camo marker is, but you still don't want to come near that area and deal with it. I'm not 100%, but that will be a very interesting thing to learn and see how that ends up playing out. But yeah, so that's me with Infinity after a dozen games. I don't know if I'll do a update right after the tournament. We'll have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping other people are as well. And I'm hoping people will be interested to know how it all went. But for now, that's me, Captain Steel, signing out.